I'm really glad to see you again. How has your week been going? Did you have anything exciting happen? Anything interesting? I had to get new glasses. Do you wear glasses, any of you? Sometimes we have to do things to help us see better, and that's okay because I think they can look pretty cool. And they help me see you better, and they help me read the stories and find some really good ones to share with you. And I think I've got some good ones today. So, shall we get started? Clap your hands if you love stories. Clap your hands, I know you do. I'm so glad that we could be together. Glad to share a story time with you. Okay, now I'm going to tell you the story of the ugly duckling. Do you know this story? Can you make the sound of a duck? What does a duck say? Quack, 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 you're right. And do you know what a duck looks like? Can you picture one? How about a baby duck? They're cute, aren't they? And now the hard question. Where do baby ducks, or ducklings, come from? That's right, they hatch out of eggs. Not shaky eggs, but eggs all the same. Well, once there was a mommy duck, and she had a nest that had been full of eggs that she'd been sitting on just for weeks, waiting for them all to hatch into ducklings. And it came time where all of them had hatched into little peeping, cheeping, quacking ducklings, except for one. It was the biggest one. And she'd been waiting and waiting. And she was starting to worry because she had heard of some other ducks who had had turkey eggs somehow get into their nest. And you didn't want a baby turkey. They can't swim at all. But finally, one day, that egg began to hatch. It wiggled and jerked and cracked, cracked, cracked. And it came open, and out came, well, the strangest looking duckling that mama duck had ever seen in her life. Its feathers were all gray and dark looking instead of the white fluffy feathers that her ducklings had. And it made the strangest sounds. Her ducklings that she had had earlier, she'd already taught to go quack, 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 just like ducks were supposed to. But when this duckling opened its mouth, it went quack. Something was very strange about this duckling. But as soon as it was able to walk around on its wobbly, spindly legs, she took them all down to the pond to see what was what. And all of the baby ducklings, one by one, jumped into the water. Splash, splash, splash. Even the large, ugly duckling. It jumped right into the water alongside all the others and bobbed up and began to swim just like that. And she thought, well, it can't be a turkey. Turkeys can't swim. I guess it just spent too much time in the egg. Maybe someday it'll grow into its looks. And so the baby ducklings swam around and around in the water. But, as children often do, soon the other ducklings began to tease their big brother. They said, "You don't look like us. You're not cute like us. You're ugly." Well, that was an awful thing to say. And the mama duck nipped at their necks and tried to get them to stop. But then all they would do was swim off by themselves and giggle, making fun of the other duckling. But it wasn't just the baby ducklings. The other ducks that were in the pond would whisper, stare at that ugly duckling. They would say, "It's such a shame that it doesn't look as beautiful as its brothers and sisters. What a pity." And after a while, the ugly duckling hung its head in shame. It was so embarrassed. And one night, when all the little ducklings were gathered in the nest underneath the mama duck, it decided that it was going to run away. And so it left. It was too little to fly yet, so it waddled, waddled, waddled off past the pond to the other side, where there were some other nests. And it found another family of ducks. And it said, "Hello," to the ducklings that were in that nest. And the other ducklings looked at it and said, "Who are you?" And the mother woke up and said, "Who are you?" And then the father duck stirred and said, "No, you're not one of ours. You have to leave." And the other baby duckling said, "Yeah, you're ugly. You have to go." Well, the poor ugly duckling had nowhere to go then either. He waddled and waddled until he came to a family of geese. Now, baby geese are not the prettiest birds in the world either. And so the geese looked at the ugly duckling and said, "You can stay with us if you like. We'll be your friends." And so the duckling thought that he had a new home, until one day he heard the sound of gunshots. There was a hunter and his dogs that were hunting for geese. And the other geese flapped and flew away, but the duckling was still too little to do so. And then through the bushes came the dog looking for geese, and the duckling was so scared he couldn't move. But the dog went up to the duckling, sniffed at him, looked at him, and turned around and took off. And the duckling was so surprised. He thought, maybe I'm too ugly even for a dog to want to catch. And so he wandered on by himself some more, and eventually he came to a house where a farmer and his wife lived. And they went out into the yard and they saw it. And they said, "What is this? A duck?" And the wife said, "Well, ducks give eggs. Maybe if we keep the duck, it will give us eggs to eat." And so they took the duck in, and they kept, and they waited, and they waited. But of course the duckling never did lay eggs. He was a boy duck. And eventually they shooed him out. They said, "Go find another place to stay." Oh, that poor little duckling. He had nowhere to go. And he waddled away until finally he came to another pond. And he sat by himself by the water until he saw floating out on the surface of the pond the most beautiful birds he'd ever seen in his life. They weren't ducks, and they weren't geese. They had long white necks and graceful bodies, and he was enchanted just watching them. And one of them happened to see him and swam over to him and said, "You have the most beautiful white feathers I've ever seen." And the duck thought, "I know that my grown-up feathers came in, but white? They weren't white before." And he went over to the surface of the pond, which was clear like a mirror, and he looked down to see his reflection. And he wasn't a duck at all. He'd grown up into a beautiful, long-necked white bird like the ones he was seeing out on the pond now. They weren't ducks. They were swans. And they said, "Would you like to come swim with us?" And he was so happy. He joined them out on the surface of the water, and he had finally found his perfect place. All right, we're going to do the 6 little ducks rhyme. You know this one. Here we go. Show me six little ducks. 6 little ducks went out one day over the hills and far away. Mama duck said, "Quack, quack, quack, quack," but only 5 little ducks came back. 5 little ducks went out one day over the hills and far away. Mama duck said, "Quack, quack, quack, quack," but only 4 little ducks came back. 4 little ducks went out one day over the hills and far away. Mama duck said, "Quack, quack, quack, quack," but only 3 little ducks came back. 3 little ducks went out one day over the hills and far away. Mama duck said, "Quack, quack, quack, quack," but only 2 little ducks came back. 2 little ducks went out one day over the hills and far away. Mama duck said, "Quack, quack, quack, quack," but only 1 little duck came back. 1 little duck went out one day over the hills and far away. Mama duck said, "Quack, quack, quack, quack," but none of the 6 little ducks came back. Sad Mama duck went out one day over the hills and far away. Mama duck said, "Quack, quack, quack, quack," and all of the 6 little ducks came back. The folktale I'm going to tell you now comes from Africa, and it's about a spider whose name was Anansi. Now, there's actually a whole lot of stories about Anansi the spider, but the one I'm going to tell you now is Anansi and the firefly. You see, one day, Firefly came to visit Anansi, and he said, "Tonight, I'm going to go out egg hunting. Would you like to come with me?" And Anansi was very excited because he loved eggs. He loved them. They were one of his favorite foods. So, of course, he agreed right away. And that night, he went over to Firefly's house, and then the two of them went off into a field. It was very, very dark. Anansi didn't know where he was going. But when Firefly spread his wings a little bit, a light spread out over the ground, and they could just barely see to where the eggs were hidden. But every time they saw some eggs that were hidden, Anansi would get so excited that he would say, "I see some! They're mine! They're mine!" And he would jump on them and grab them and put them in his sack. And Firefly wouldn't even be able to get one. And this happened over and over and over, with Anansi gathering all the eggs, yelling, "They're mine! They're mine!" and Firefly not getting a single egg. And after a while, Firefly got really frustrated and exasperated. And finally he said, "I think that's enough hunting for tonight, and I have to go home." And with that, he flew away, taking the light with him. Well, now there was Anansi in the dark, with no idea how to get home, no idea how to see, and besides that, he had a sack that was so full of eggs that it weighed him down a lot. But he struggled his way through the tall grass until finally he saw a tiny light in the distance. It was a house. And he went up to it and he thought about how he could take shelter there for the night. And finally he called out, "Godfather! Godfather!" And the door opened, and there was Tiger. And Tiger said, "Who is outside my house?" And Anansi thought and said, "It's I, your godson, Anansi. I need your help." Well, Tiger didn't have any godsons at all. And besides that, Anansi had tricked him many times, and he certainly remembered it. Then he saw that Anansi had a large sack with him. And Tiger wanted to get even. And he was quite clever too. So he said, "Come in, godson," and closed the door behind him. Now, once he was in there, Tiger and his wife put on a large kettle of water to boil. And they took the sack from Anansi and boiled the eggs to eat. And when they started to eat them, the Tiger looked at Anansi and said, "Would you like some, godson?" Well, Anansi was nervous because there he was, a little spider in a house full of tigers. And he said, No, that's all right, godfather. You can have some." And so the tigers ate up the eggs. And when they were done eating those eggs, when Anansi couldn't see, Tiger went and put a lobster in the pot. You know what a lobster is. It's a fish with claws and it's got a hard shell on it. He put a lobster in the pot and covered it with eggshells so that it looked like there were more eggs in the pot. And then Tiger said, "Oh, I'm so full. I think I need to go to sleep. Anansi, godson, you may sleep on that bed right over there." And so the tigers lay down and pretended to sleep. And meanwhile, Anansi crept over to the pot and looked in and saw what he thought were eggs. And he reached in to take one, and the lobster pinched him, and he yelped out. And the tiger said, "Godson, are you all right?" And Anansi said, "I just got bit by a flea." A little while later, he reached in again for another egg, and he got clicked by the lobster again, and he yelped even louder. And the tiger said, "Godson, what is going on?" And Anansi said, "These fleas are eating me alive." And Tiger said, "Fleas? How dare you accuse us of having fleas in our house? You get out of here. We fed you and gave you a place to sleep." And Anansi fled out of the bed and out of the door. He was scared for his life. Thankfully, the sun had come up a little by that point, so he was able to find his way home. He never went back to Tiger's house after that, and he never tried to trick him again. And every time he went over to Firefly's house to ask if he would like to go hunting for more eggs, Firefly's wife said that he wasn't home and maybe Anansi should come back another time. And so Anansi never did figure out where the field was that all of those eggs were, and he had plenty of time by himself to think about how his trickery came back and tricked him. All right, are you ready to shake your shakers? You can use a shaky egg if you have one, but if you don't have one, you can go get any kind of a rattle or a cat or a dog toy that makes a noise when you shake it, or even a coffee can or an oatmeal can full of beans or rice. Anything you want to shake will work for this. So why don't you go get one of those, and then we'll do our song. You can pause me. It's okay. You ready? Shake your shakers in the air. Shake it here, shake it there. Shake your shakers in the air. Shake your shakers. Shake it high and shake it low. Shake it yes, shake it no. Shake it high and shake it low. Shake your shakers. Shake it up and shake it down. Shake your shaker on the ground. Shake it up and shake it down. Shake your shakers. Shake it near and shake it far. Drive your shaker like a car. Shake it near and shake it far. Shake your shakers. Shake it fast and shake it slow. Shake it stop. Shake it go. Shake it fast and shake it slow. Shake your shakers. One more time. Shake your shakers in the air. Shake it here, shake it there. Shake your shakers in the air. Shake your shakers. Good job. Well, I hope you enjoyed those stories today. They were pretty funny, but I know that you know better than to tease someone or trick someone meanly. These stories are really good for laughing at and then showing us what we should not do sometimes, right? I hope that you're having a great summer. I hope that you're getting a lot of reading done and a lot of other creative things. I hope that you're singing. I hope that you're dancing and making music. And I hope that we can see each other again in person soon. So let's get a big old stretch, shall we? Let me see you reach for the ceiling and touch the floor. Stand up again. Let's do some more. Touch your head. And now your knees up to your shoulders. Like this, you see. Reach for the ceiling and touch the floor. And that's all there is. There isn't any more. Bye.